If you have a really large expense in a Coincraft project, you can add them via this Add Expense button. You can give your expense a name, so let's call this Quantity Surveyor. We'll give it a stage, we'll make this go into the documentation stage. You can also nominate the dates. This is optional, but let's just copy the dates above here. And we can add a cost. So let's say our quantity surveyor is going to cost us $3,000. This checkbox here marks whether the expense is billable or not, and that basically means that Coincraft will know this expense will be reimbursed by the client and will help the system calculate its forecast. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Since our expenses go over a couple of months, we'll see them here distributed in the forecast. Scroll down and we can see our two expenses. We can expand documentation stage here and we can see the 2 months of engineering and 2 months of quantity surveying. We can then invoice the client for these expenses. So if we go into the invoice list here, create a new invoice for Sydney Opera House, give it an invoice number, and we scroll all the way down the bottom here, and we're going to hit the sync button. And you'll see your expenses listed below. There'll be two cost fields here, one with the total cost of the expense, another with the remaining cost, and that number is coming from previous invoices. So this is the first time we've invoiced these expenses, so it's going to be the full amount. We'll sync those expenses, and they were in documentation, so you're going to see them up here above. And we're just going to change the amounts that we're billing for this invoice. And make that 0.5 and this 0.5. So we're billing for 50% of the expenses. If you need to demonstrate these amounts or the progress to your client, you can use these description codes here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down the bottom and we can find expense progress. I'm going to click it to copy it, and we can just paste that code in here, put a percentage symbol, and we can see that the descriptions are now displaying that the expenses are 50% complete. I'm going to save this as a template. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that and then show you what happens when we create a new invoice. Invoice list, create a new invoice for the same project. Give it a number, and we're going to go down and sync our expenses again, and we can see that the remaining cost here is now $10,000 and $1,500. We'll just add those into the invoice, and we can select our descriptions as before, and we can now see that by billing the remaining amount, we're hitting 100% completion on those expenses. That should be everything you need to know about creating and tracking large expenses in Coincraft. Thanks.